Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Supply Chain Digital Dialogues presented by ETRetail and Delhivery. The topic for today's discussion is reducing variability in the D2C supply chain with inventory placement solutions. Today, we are joined by the who's who of the Indian D2C and logistics industry to discuss and understand how brands can reduce variability in their supply chain with smart inventory placement solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, this discussion will be followed by Q&A round. You all can drop your questions in the chat box. Our moderator will take the questions at the end of the discussion. Now let's open the floor for our guests. It's my pleasure to invite you all. The panelists for this discussion are Abhishek Agrawal, Senior Vice President, Supply Chain and Sourcing, Bombay Shaving Company. Chirag Gupta, Founder, 4700 BC. Jatin Gujrati, Business Head, Vedix. Meghana Narayan, co-founder, Slurrp Farm. Rohan Shanbhag, SVP, Regional Sales Delivery. Shailvee Pujari, Head Supply Chain Operations, Purplle. And this will be moderated by Pallab Roy, Partner, KPMG. Welcome, everyone. Pleasure to have you here. Over to you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you so much for that, and a very warm welcome and a very good afternoon to all of you and my fellow panelists. We have a very exciting session, lined up for you today. Obviously, we are the third largest retail market in the world today, and we've seen tremendous growth in terms of e-commerce. Obviously, our e-commerce penetration today in retail is almost close to about 8 to 10%, and it's expected to go as high as about 15%. But the real story within that is D2C, which we call as direct to customer. And if you look at D2C, it's probably, if I can size it, it's about 12 billion odd today, expected to go to about 60 billion by 2027. So you'd almost expect a CAGR of 40% or more on this channel alone. Also, if you see some of the pure D2C brands which have come into play, they've been the fastest to scale to the 100 crore kind of mark in about 3 to 5 years. It's no surprise that this D2C category is dominated by, if you look at the subcategories within that, you'd see apparel, footwear, grocery, gourmet, personal care, electronics, and the likes. And my fellow panelists all represent some of these categories today. So very exciting to hear some of their thoughts and views. Obviously, in terms of direct to customer as a channel, supply chain becomes a very, very critical element of that. And what I'd want to do is to just start to layer as to what does a typical architecture of a D2C supply chain look like. So Abhishek, can I just bring you in on that so that you have a quick view on what, and just lay it out for all of us to what does a D2C supply chain architecture look like?
So thank you, Pallab. Thank you, ETRetail team. So I'll just start off with a phone call I received today from my longtime friend who was a CXO at a big pharma company. And he said that I want to launch a D2C website for our personal care brand. And he was curious about everything, like how does the supply chain look like? What should I do? Where should I start with? So that's basically the business case today for most of the CXOs are facing. Like, how do I start a D2C supply chain? What does it look like? So D2C supply chain primarily consists of a front-end software, let's say a Shopify, which talks to the customer on your website and shows the inventory. The backend can be an ERP or a WMS system, let's say Vinculum, or it could be an ERP. And the ERP and Shopify, they talk to each other about inventory, about planning, about stock. And then it is backed by a 3PL, let's say like a Delhivery, who will process the order once received on the Shopify, and by a aggregator or by a last mile courier partner, let's say like Delhivery. So these are the 4 elements of a basic D2C supply chain: the front-end software, which talks to the customer, the back-end software, which processes the order and shows the inventory, the 3PL, which processes the order, and the last mile delivery partner, who basically gives it and supplies it to the customer's home. There's also RTO we call, which is return to order. That means that if the customer refuses the order, then the stock has to come back. That again is processed by the logistics partner, who again will bring it back to you, and again you will take it back into your system. Those are the 5 elements of any D2C supply chain.
Great. Thanks, Abhishek. What I do is, Shailvee, let me bring you in, right? You run a massive, marketplace on personal care, huge number of SKUs that you deal with. Would you want to just layer for us, similarly, the D2C supply chain architecture that you have?
So for us, so we, as you mentioned, we've become a large marketplace, and we started off as a marketplace, but we are of course using that channel now to distribute the brands that we have created internally, direct to consumers also. So I'll start with how the marketplace supply chain setup works. So the same elements as Abhishek mentioned, right? So there is a storefront, in our case, internally created entirely, storefront where customers come in and they can purchase the products. So that is the front end that is visible to the customers. Then on the back end, so the back end software consists of a WMS, order management system, warehouse management system, which links to the storefront where the orders can flow in from the storefront to the backend. Then the WMS is, so those are the two parts on the technology piece. Then on the infrastructure piece, we have a warehouse structure that is servicing the orders. So the WMS helps flow in those orders to the individual warehouses that are processing the orders. So after that, the products are dispatched from the warehouses. So that is where for us, third-party logistics come in. And in certain cases, there are certain capabilities that we have built internally through which we are able to service orders to the customer. So that is the fourth aspect of the supply chain. Then the fifth aspect, as Abhishek mentioned, is the entire return leg, right, which varies from category to category. So within our category, at least we see a lower return rate compared to possibly a more discretionary category as apparel. But that is also an important channel to handle from both cost and experience perspective for customers. So those are the four pieces of marketplace supply chain that that exist for us. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Shailvee. Rohan, let me just bring you in here, right? And let me ask you that from a service provider kind of lens, right? How do you look at this D2C architecture? What are the components that you would address as a service provider?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to be on the panel with all of you. I think Abhishek and Shailvee have really covered it all. One element I think that probably should be added in is the checkout process and the payment partner, whether it's a Razorpay or any other company, because when you need that a solid link between your order management system and a financing partner to make sure that the payment experience is smooth, because a lot of times otherwise you have clients that churn at that payment checkout point. So that's one area. I think most of the points have been covered, as I mentioned. I think two areas that I think are different when it comes to thinking B2B and B2C is client servicing and inventory management. So when I think of client servicing, when you're working on the B2B side, you're working with a retailer, you're working with a distributor. That experience versus when you're working directly with the consumer, you need to really build up a very different front-facing customer experience team. In the client side, when it's a B2B experience, you tend not to have that much of, say, social media escalations if a shipment doesn't reach, or there's an error in the order, or it takes a longer time. Here in the B2C side, you will experience a lot of the social media. So the skill set has to be built up, or a new team has to be built up for it. And then the other part is inventory management, because when you're working in B2B, you're moving things in terms of pallets, you're moving in terms of large boxes. When it comes to processing for a B2C order, you're moving one shipment. And that one shipment means that you have to take what's come inbound into your warehouse in cartons and packets and pallets down to a single unit and run that out into a different box. So that pick pack process has to be also built in. It's a very different muscle for a long-standing B2B business. For companies such as the ones on the panel who have been D2C from the get-go, that muscle is already built. But I think it's just these two muscles tend to need to get developed because it's a very different way of operating.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So, I mean, thanks for getting to the customer experience side. So, Meghana, thanks for doing this literally in the middle of the night for us from the US. But as a co-founder, right, I just wanted to pick some of your thoughts and ask you as to why, amongst all the channels that you have available, right, why is D2C an important channel for your business? And associated with that is, what are the top 3 things that you do differently, especially within D2C, which impacts customer experience?
Great. Really nice to be on this panel with all of you. Hopefully in person at a more reasonable hour another day. I think D2C is just such it has been, for many brands like mine, we sell kids food, and it is really gives you this unique ability to connect with the consumer like never before, right? Even a decade ago, this wasn't possible at the way we all do it now. It's a two-way conversation. Normally, it's a one-way conversation. You're just presenting yourself, and you're never hearing anything back. In the earlier days of retail, or even now when you do retail in a store, and I think that's the most magical part about D2C. You launch a product, you put it out there. The first 500 people buy it. You can call all of them and hear, whether they liked it. Whether the level of spice was just right. Should I change the mirchi? All of it, right? And you'd be surprised as to what level of detail people are willing to get into, and give you feedback to help you make your product better. So I just think that firstly, it's not an option. It really is an opportunity for any company, to reach out to their consumer and really, hone their proposition, right? So I think, it's 2022. And if you're not on the D2C wagon, it's time to just get on it, because, you're just missing an opportunity. So having said my piece on D2C, Chirag, do you want to sort of share a little bit more into what you guys have been doing?
So yeah, thanks guys for having me here. I think Meghana rightly said, I think just to add to her point, I think we as a brand started like more of an omni-channel brand, and being in a more mass market snack product. I think we had to be present in retail where the consumers are looking for product like these, right? So for us, D2C worked in 2 different ways, right? So one is what value add I can bring to those consumers who are already getting my product on the shelf, right? So that's the first problem which I'm trying to solve. And the second problem is to those consumers who I'm not able to reach, right? So there's a lot of consumers who have my product while transiting, while flying in a plane, while in a train or in a cinema, right? A lot of places, or a friend's place, right? And I may not be available in their local markets, right? My distribution will take its own sweet time to get to every nook and corner of this country, right? So for those people, how do I get my product to them, right? So I think these are the 2 major problems which we solve through our website, right? So we get a lot of consumers who are actually sitting in tier 1, tier 2 cities, right? For whom my product is still not available to them, right? So that's one of the challenge with a problem which we solve. The other thing is, I think, we present our product into a gifting category, into, something which can be, sent to somebody across the world, right? So I think we offer something which is not available in retail to those consumers, or something beyond that, right? So maybe you can get a popcorns, gourmet popcorn, caramel popcorn pouch in a shelf, but you probably want to gift it in a nicely done box, which has some communication, some personalization for them. I think that's what we offer, right? And the other thing which we're trying to build again is, because it's a snacking, you say, hey, I love your cheese popcorn, but I also love your chocolate popcorn. Can you mix them for me, right? I want to have both of them together. That kind of a customization is again something we can offer, which I cannot offer on Amazon or something, right? And I think lastly, as Meghana said, we actually make sure all new products which we launch are on our website first, so that we can trial with our most loyal customers first, get their opinion about it, and then probably launch it in retail in a better fashion, right? It really helps. I mean, there's no two way about it.
So Chirag, thanks for that. I mean, what I'll do, and I'll ask Meghna the same question, right? So all the things that you mentioned are amazing things from a customer experience point of view.
Yeah.
What do you think the supply chain needs to do differently to actually deliver those?
I think fundamentally, when a person reaches your website, they see a certain sort of image, right? And they have a certain experience on your, of both of shopping on your website and what you're communicating to the consumer. You want that sort of the end-to-end experience to be seamless, right? And this is where I'm not just saying it because Rohan's on the on the panel, but partners like Delhivery help make that happen, right? So whether it is, the sort of the right box that the product that has been picked goes into, whether the right sample that you want, that particular consumer based on what they've bought, or the right communication, just making all of that happen is something that a sort of a good quality third party provider would help you do. And I think this is what I mean, right? You can communicate in ways that you were never able to do before to your consumer, and in such a personalized fashion. I mean, like Chirag's example, right? Of the consumer's telling him, I want a mix of 2 types of popcorn, and he's able to deliver that. I've seen actually Bombay Shaving Company do a lovely Rakhi, and I've gifted that to many people, like Rakhi presents and I'm sure they do it on other occasions as well, but like with personalized, like with images and photos of people and so on. So I think these are not things that people ever thought were possible, and that this last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years has made this customer experience really get elevated, right? You're not just buying a product that's fulfilling that functional need. You truly are buying into the brand and what that brand stands for, and giving you a holistic experience. These are the kinds of things you thought of in the context of luxury products. You are now thinking of, and experiencing them even with sort of very day-to-day functional products, right? There's no, and you have the ability to solve problems for consumers on very, very specific, literally down to one, right? Personalization to one. So I think that's what this has meant to us.
Thanks, Meghna, for that. Obviously supply chain is a critical part of it, as you both have alluded to, and I think Rohan touched upon before. Jatin, let me get you in, right? I just want to kind of understand that if supply chain is so important, right? What are some of the new age solutions or tools that you're using in the D2C channel, right? And especially, obviously, if you're going to do so many different things, what Chirag or Meghna alluded to, right? Inventory becomes an important part and parcel of that. If you have to reach consumers far and wide beyond your, retail fulfillment, inventory becomes another, holy grail, if I can say so. So inventory, visibility across the supply chain. Obviously, in a space where we have RTOs, you have a lot of costs, ensuring faster deliveries because people want to order, experience the product. It's an experience with the brand, so speed is important. So, what are you, if you can share some of your thoughts and perspectives on how you've looked at tools or new age tech to address some of this?
Sure. Thanks, Pallab, for that question, and good to be here as part of this panel. I think all the points that the panelists before you mentioned very relevant, especially around customization and customer service. So I'll just give you a background to the brand, and then maybe that'll set context to the solutions that we have built. Vedix as a brand is 100% digital, and out of that, about 85% is D2C, which means 85% of our orders come from our own website. And that's because we offer customized beauty and personal care solutions, which means that you come on the website, you answer a bunch of questions, and the right SKU is mapped to your profile, which in case of Vedix could be the right oil and the right shampoo and the right serum. In case of skincare, the right cleanser, the right moisturizers, the right. So the biggest challenge in that context is proliferation in the number of SKUs. So you can imagine a typical consumer brand will have 30, D2C consumer brand will have 25, 30 SKUs. In our case, we have more than 100 because these are all SKU combinations that go for different kind of customer profiles, right? So when we started building out our distributed supply chain, it was a challenge how to optimize and replicate inventory across all locations. Because what we are really competing is against 1 day, same day, 2 day delivery offered by marketplaces. And as a D2C, pure play D2C brand, we have to match those delivery expectations. So the challenge is to work with the partners like Delhivery and replicate inventory and make sure that the pickups happen as many times as possible in the day, so that as much as possible we can offer secondary delivery. And as a brand, about 50% of our customers are from tier 3 and beyond cities. So the challenge is to build out supply chain in those regions, which I think obviously Delhivery does very well. But still, it's not local in the sense that let's say someone orders from a tier 3 town, it is still serviced from a tier 1, even if it's an outskirt tier 1 location, which increases the time to deliver. So as I think the supply chain builds out in those hinterlands, the time to deliver will reduce. And that will actually reduce the other problem that you touched upon, which is RTO. Now, the reason, and in our basis, our hypothesis, the biggest reason why RTO happen is the time it takes is because it takes time to deliver the order, right? Let's say someone orders, okay, let's break it down. Let's take a step back. We see less than 0.5% RTO on a prepaid order versus whatever number on a COD order. Why does the customer order COD? Because customer doesn't believe that the order will be delivered on time. So if we can offer same day delivery for a COD customer, RTO is almost nil. So the supply chain has to be built in a way that can offer same or next day or at max 2-day delivery to all the pin codes, not only tier 1 and tier 2. And that's where partners, and that's where we bank on partners like Delhivery, right? And that will solve not only, obviously that will increase customer delight, but it will also solve the RTO problem, which is a big drain on the P&L for all D2C brands. I think I can say that, right? And the other tech, so to answer your question on tech, well, what we have done a lot of NDR automation. Now, when I say NDR, it is non-deliverable sort of terminology. What happens is when in a B2B shipment goes out, gets delivered, GRN is created, you get an email, all is good. But in a B2C or D2C shipment goes out, customer is out of town, customer is not available, they've changed their mind. So a lot of instances that gets triggered at the time of last mile delivery. So sometimes what happens is that that information doesn't come to the brand in time for an intervention to happen, right? So what we have done is a lot of an NDR automation, wherein the moment a shipment is declined, a message goes out to the brand so that a team here from our central warehouse coordinates with the customer immediately almost, and coordinates with the last mile partner to make sure that those issues are resolved and enough delivery attempts are made. So that's something that's being done. And also it creates a two-way channel, because let's say a customer says, let's say last mile partner says customer is not available. Trigger goes to the customer saying that, hey, we tried and you're not available. The customer immediately replies saying that, no, I'm available. So this is all happening real time through tech, right? It's not happening on call. So that helps improve deliveries and also improves customer experience. And obviously we work with Delhivery and all the tech that goes into that. It helps improve that customer experience. In terms of replication inventory, we use tools. We have built tools in-house that help us get a view of our inventory across all distributed warehouses. And also track sort of sales momentum there across all SKU combinations, so that we can move inventory around as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. So there's a lot of tech that has gone into, and definitely a supply chain, a D2C supply chain cannot work without heavy tech involvement. I mean, I hope I answer your question, Pallab.
No, Jatin, I think that was good. I will come back to you and pick you on the questions around inventory planning, etc. at a date. But since you alluded to, hyper customized products, right? That is an operating model that you have, and your supply chain needs to support that. Let me also, Abhishek, bring you in and check with you on how, because you do have kind of a subscription model. So how do you leverage the supply chain to mimic the operating model or the business model that is chosen? And then how do you align the supply chain and the technology to deliver that? If you can talk about your experiences around it.
So Bombay Shaving Company, as Meghana said, and Meghana, I'll send you the check later. Thanks for the good thing. So uh, it's all about customizing, delivering personalized experience and gifting around occasions. Besides the regular products we have, but that's the D2C versus the regular marketplace you have on Amazon or Flipkart, and the offline presence we have through retailers. So in a D2C supply chain, the customization and how do you deliver the experience becomes very important. The surge of orders during the Father's Day, Rakhi, during Diwali, during Valentine's Day becomes very important. So that's the second aspect, and that's where the tech and supply chain has to come in, because it's all about simplification and delivering what you need. As a case study, like we did certain events, and I guess you learn through experience that if you have too many variants of a packaging, when you try to deliver same, it may not get delivered in the right way. There's always a last mile problem that happens. But when you standardize your supply chain and say that I'm only going to do 10 boxes, but offer multiple combination of that across the whole kitting range, then that becomes a doable supply chain. So it's very important to understand your product, the experience you want to offer, and can you handle the surge or not? Because it's all about the day. If you miss the Father's Day, you're delivering it tomorrow on 19th, or let's say Valentine's Day, and imagine the photos gets mixed up, right? Some of the girl going with some other boy. So imagine. So you have to be really, really careful. And that's the operational mindset. That's the operational mindset, the checklist, the making it perfect, making it standardized down to T, and forcing the business heads and category owners to say that, look, you may design the moon, you may design Taj Mahal, but I really want something which can get delivered. So that's one aspect of simplification and standardization. That is one. Coming on the tech part of it, the tech today is very simple for us because tech also involves cost. So we have front-end Shopify, back-end Vinculum, it's a WMS software. The investment in ERP needs money and time. So you know that you're living with constraints, because as you grow big, that's where you will also plan to upscale your tech. So how do you make the most of it in today's times when cash is very important, when agility is very important, and how do you plan for events knowing the surge and putting all the points in place to ensure a seamless experience? So that's about the practical aspect of supply chain in a customized, personalized world with all the days thrown in.
Shailvee, let me bring you in, right? I mean, again, same thing. You have D2C, you have a marketplace, right? So optimizing your stock management, right? Inventory placements, and then using tech to drive it. Your thoughts on what are the three best kind of insights or top three insights that you have on this?
So let me first cover the 3-4 major areas in which we are actually investing in tech to optimize inventory planning. So starting with the demand planning solutions, right? So basically, the traditional demand planning and forecasting solutions have a lesser significance in the current e-commerce setup, due to the dynamic nature of demand. So there is an opportunity that D2C brands have to develop inbuilt or internal capabilities, which is more customized to their consumer segment. And there is a scope for differentiation over there through building some demand planning solutions, which are more customized to their, their requirements. So, for example, there is one area where one can build, say, a closed loop planning system where one could integrate pricing decisions along with demand and supply planning. Here, prices can be dynamically adapted to optimize for profit or optimize for sales losses. So, according to the stock in hand that one has. So, this is one area where so one major insight from which this learning comes is that one needs to identify, as Abhishek was just covering, that the tech requires investment, right? So one needs to prioritize that where is it that one wants to build internal capabilities, and where is it that one can leverage external capabilities that already exist out there in the market. So this is one area where I believe that internal capabilities can help make supply chain more efficient for D2C brands. Other bit is where, as I was mentioning, that possibly the traditional demand planning forecasting solutions is something which might not entirely cover the requirements. So here is where demand sensing is another bit that comes into play, where we have because of the channel that we operate in, there is quality data available on, say, customer browsing, customer search behavior, which can help build personalized product offerings and experience. Now, this is where this can go into an input into the demand sensing that one can, the demand sensing engine that one can build internally, where one can use real-time data to predict whatever is going to come in, or what orders are going to come in, which products are going to get ordered, which products are going to kind of become less relevant, which products are going to pick up in demand. So demand sensing is another area where one can invest in. The second aspect to this is, while all of the prediction and planning is required, I think there is a need for the plans that are made or the predictions that are made to be reviewed from time to time. Here is where kind of dynamic ordering or a stock balancing system helps, where one can order according to so every order that is placed, say every order, and here I mean the primary order that is being placed with the suppliers that we have or with the manufacturers that we have. Every order that is placed needs to have inputs real time coming in from your systems internally. So this is another aspect which one needs to look at. Another bit is that through the distributed network of warehouses that we have to service customer demand regionally as much as possible, right? Because as mentioned just now, that speed of delivery is something which has become critical for the customer. So for that, there also needs to be a very quick or a very efficient stock balancing mechanism that one has to distribute the stocks across the network, either pre-order or post-customer order. So these are the areas where I feel that there is where I believe there needs to be an investment from the brands to optimize for inventory management.
Thank you. So Meghana, let me bring you in on that same thing, right? Inventory placement as well as stock management, right? So what are your top 3 insights on improving that?
I think as brands grow, right? When we started, we had 1 warehouse. We now have 4 that we work with in sort of across the country. We don't have any super cool tech tool at this point or a ERP system in place. We're still working off Excel and very human almost like on a weekly basis, right? So all of those, the demand sensing and so I was smiling as Shailvee was talking, because I was thinking, when is the day going to come that we can actually sort of, build that the tech piece in, right? Right now, it is very much us reading the data and doing the demand sensing and then making those decisions ourselves in terms of, what might sell and so on and so forth. That's more a combination of what people are coming for and what we're marketing as well, right? So playing that game both ways, almost. What are we putting out there and what are people looking for? I think the other thing that, we're a food product, right? With shelf lives anywhere from 4 months, 6 months, 12 months. We don't use it, preservatives, anything we make, and so on and so forth. So, just managing that again. But D2C also is the one channel in which you can manage that really well, because you have that ability to check, and decide exactly how much you want to produce. In fact, I would say on this channel is the channel that you can have the most number of SKUs with the, because you have most amount of data, right? In terms of, it's not like it's a product that's going into a store and it's sitting there for, you don't have a sense of how long it's been on the shelf. You know exactly when it entered, your warehouse, from the facility, and you can make your sort of pricing, would you want to run an offer, whatever decision based on that. So I think looking at that, across the board, across your, across your SKU list on a weekly basis, if not even more tightly, is critical, right? Because then also, it's an opportunity like no other. You can launch SKUs much quicker. You can do it, fail faster, and in a way that you couldn't do before, and in a much cheaper way as well. You don't have to go sort of really wide, put it in 2,000 stores. You have access to, even a sort of a mid-sized brand like us has a database of consumers that we can tell whether this is ye chamkega ki nahi, right? Pretty quickly.
I mean, that's great. I think Rohan, I just get you in to share some of your thoughts there, because you heard all different combinations, from very sophisticated demand sensing to different operating models to hyper customization that Jatin alluded to, Chirag mentioned. Abhishek spoke about some of the gaps in tech as well, right? So how do you support and handle all of that? And I'll top it up with one question that I'm seeing, which has come from the participants as well, which is saying, what are the issues pertaining to the last mile when it comes to D2C landscape in India? So on one side, you have the issues on the last mile. On the other side, you have a mix of organizations who are, at different stages of evolution. So how do you enable and then support that in terms of, inventory placements, inventory management, availability, speed, costs, all of that?
Sure. So I think hats off to everybody on the panel, because they have managed to take a fairly complex situation and simplify it in quite in a minute or so, each of them. When you think about the number of SKUs that each of these brands have to manage and take it across a country that's as large as India and as diverse as India, it's complicated. It is just, there's no simple answer to it. It's complicated. And I'm probably going to add to the complexity when I answer this question. For example, depending on the stage of the company, Meghana and Shailvee gave a different perspective depending on the size of the company or the investment in technology. One of the things that we've seen is that clients will have different systems and inventory management tools for each channel. So when it's B2B or retail or distributor, they have one channel. They have a different warehouse. Sometimes they have a different warehouse for marketplace, different warehouse for their e-commerce or D2C channel. Now, what that does is that you don't have an integrated view. So you have to hold inventory for each of these channels. So you end up building up inventory. So that's a challenge to sort. And there are technologies and partners that can help you put a unified view of your inventory, which will dramatically shrink that inventory view that you have to carry to fulfill a client order. The other thing is thinking of your inventory management from a product lifecycle perspective. Now, if you are launching a special product for a season, or you're launching a product that is going to be there only for a year and a half, and then you're going to, bring in a new flavor, or however you run your product lifecycle, I think Apple is a really good example in how they end the product lifecycle. You rarely ever see them discounting the product at the end of the cycle, because they have managed that ramp up using what they know of the customers and the pre-booking that they allow. They get a lot of information of what inventory needs to be where. How many people want a pink watch versus a black watch, and which locations are they getting the senses, allows them to push inventory. They control it during the stable period. And when they're ramping it down and the next version of the watch is going to be released, they are controlling the inventory that flows out, right? And that's because their D2C channel can really work well for them. So I think thinking about that is also an important factor. The other two things that we see is on stock transfer. Inventory is sitting in Allahabad and has to be in Ahmedabad, or sitting in Hyderabad and needs to be in Hubli. right? What happens is one of the clients we had, they had 60% of their sales was moving around in stock transfers. So we used a lot of analytics and looking at where their warehouses are placed, where their order patterns are coming from. We were able to, over a period of time, remove that. And this is, by the way, to a large multinational. We were able to move that from 60% of revenue to about less than 20% of revenue, right? So a lot of stock was, the amount of stock moving around for logistics as well as inventory holding costs was substantially reduced. The other thing that we see is, and Shailvee and I have discussed this in a different context, but it's the same principle. Is you want to get your inventory closer to your consumer in the case of e-commerce and D2C. Now, how often do you move that inventory closer to your consumer, where that movement from your mother warehouse to your regional warehouse does not increase the cost, right? So you have to balance out how much inventory you hold forward deploy to how much inventory or how often you send out that inventory. And so that's also now another nifty art of analytics, and it's a little bit of science and a little bit of art and a little bit of fail fast, as Meghna mentioned, that has to be done to kind of manage this fairly complex topic of inventory management.
Right. So
now, Pallab, I think there was that one other question on last mile. I'll try and answer that.
Basically, what do you think are the issues pertaining to last mile when it comes to the D2C landscape in India?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just take it at a very high level. There are 3 points. Okay, one is the information that we get. The second is on manpower, and the third is on infra issues. So for when I say information that we get, a lot of times the address or phone number of the consignee is not necessarily correct. We get what we call junk data. You get a number like 99999. Now, if I have to call the customer when I'm delivering the shipment, obviously 999 is not a right number. So fixing that becomes, getting that information corrected becomes very important to ensure that there is a higher probability of making the delivery. And so we try to work with brands a lot to try and make sure that once we get the shipment, we see the issue, we raise it so that we can fix it while the shipment is in transit. It's that process of collaboration and information exchange has opportunity to improve the conversion rate. The second is manpower. It is the FE has a very difficult job. The example I give to myself is when you're in a Delhi summer, right, at 40 degrees, you're like, when will the monsoon come? For the FE, he's thinking, yeah, I have to carry this 25 kg pack in the summer, but if the monsoons come, I can't even drive my bike and make the deliveries happen. So that's the trade-off of life that the FE has. It's a very tough job. Unfortunately, therefore, it comes with churn and all those kind of issues which hamper our ability to plan. We can't, it's a very, we don't have high margin business. So ability to do S&OP planning with our partners becomes extremely critical to manage the manpower. And the last part is infrastructure issues. There have been situations multiple times where you have rain, it floods one side of the street and doesn't flood the other side of the street. And you're hoping you're on the higher ground and not on the lower ground, right? And it's happened multiple times that you're on one side, your competitors on the other side. But these are things that can just break a last mile location very easily. And I think we all see that when I live in Bombay, or if I'm in Bombay, you get the floods, you can see that the city comes to a grinding halt. Shipments are still being ordered at that point of time for Bombay. It might take a few days for the situation to clear up in Bombay. So these things become, these are kind of issues that happen on the last mile side.
Great, thanks. I'll just pick up one more question, and Chirag, let me just bring you in, right? Because you spoke about a lot of customization, a lot of specific personalized products, in the D2C supply chain, and especially a huge spread. I mean, it will be global, India, wherever, right? So if you look at it, how are you kind of, managing your inventory, therefore, right? What kind of inventory placements? How are you managing? Are you using some kind of tech or predictive tech to be able to do that? Your views on it.
So I think what Abhishek mentioned, Meghna, we use the same kind of tech solutions which are there in the market, right? We have a unicommerce layer who helps us, does the inventory planning, and we use ShipRocket for warehousing solution, right? So similarly, but I think the way we work is, again, there's certain set of SKUs which are fast moving SKUs, right? Especially when it comes to the season time, right? So like Abhishek mentioned, Father's Day, Raksha Bandhan, Diwali, right? Then the expectation of a customer is like, can I get it in Monday? Can I get it today? Can I get it, as fast as possible, right? So we kind of monitor which are those SKUs for us, which are those SKUs which we are also promoting on our website, which can get delivered fast, right? And we do that communication on our website, right? Here are the 10 SKUs. If you really wanted it, quickly, these are the ones we can, we have put it across the country in different warehouses, and you can really get fast for your Diwali or Father's Day, right? And that's how we plan and put them in warehouses across the country. There are a lot of SKUs, like, Meghna also mentioned that there are a lot of SKUs which we make it only on website, right? And are more customized. For example, if I'm offering Rakhi, right, to a customer, I can offer with so many SKUs, right? And probably all those SKUs doesn't need to go in every warehouse in this country, because, those are more customized, those are more new SKUs which we launched. We don't know how much sales they will do, right? So those are the SKUs which we directly ship from a warehouse, right? And for those, we have now worked with partners like Delhivery or Amazon Shipping, which we have a better sense of, delivery, right? So whether it takes 3 to 5 days, but yes, that solution is only available on our website, and you can only get it here, which is more customized to a customer offering. So I think that's how we plan. I think the more sales we have, it's available across the country, and I think the more customized the solution, it is more localized to our warehouse, so that we can do that customization for the customer.
Do you do anything? Have you thought about, like Rohan mentioned, how you do inventory placements and how your stock becomes important? But do you use the warehouse or your distribution center to actually create the product or mixes that people ask for, or they're shipped directly as finished products, which are hyper customized and then supplied?
So if I get it right, what you mean is, those customized solutions which we offer, those are like, what do you want to know? Sorry.
I want to understand if you're using the warehouse or your distribution centers to work and create some bit of customization for you. It may not be like they're touching the product, but if they want to create some mixes, etc., or they are shipped directly from the start.
So I think right now, no. To answer that, I think we are still in the phase of, seeing few season, what the trend is, what kind of sales we're doing, right? What kind of customization people are liking, right? So we still have that control with us, right? So every year, every occasion, we are trying to do more customization, more offerings to our consumer, and just seeing what trend is happening, right? So for example, this year, when it comes to Rakhi, we're just doing one box, one standardized box, but that has 5 different options for it, right? Multiple, maybe one product even from like Slurrp Farm, one product from Chayos, right? Put in that box and try to see if the customer is really liking that solution, right? So if I do that and if I see there's a good sales around it, probably next time I will start doing that customization at more places, right? So that's how I'm looking at this, right? So I think we're still in that phase of, I think, getting more data, getting more, user preferences and what people are preferring for. I think then we are going in next mile. So like we have certain data from the past. So we know like a chocolate popcorn sells crazy doing Rakhi, for example, right? And we have one SKU for that ready with Rakhi available across India, right? So that's the data we have already from the past. But I think to give more customized solution more faster and to do it in a more off-center location than a factory, I think we still need more data with us to take that call.
Perfect. So that leads me to the next question, and Shailvee, let me bring you in there, right? So the question from the audience was, what are the modern forecasting techniques to reduce inventory in the D2C system?
Right. So, as I had covered to some extent earlier, I think forecasting and demand planning definitely are very critical. But I think the another critical piece that we definitely need to start focusing on is how is it that in case that is not giving the entire input into having the right inventory at the right place, and how is it that you have some corrective mechanisms which ensures that you have the right inventory available at the right place. So a couple of things that I already covered. How is it that you have stock balancing across the network? This is something which was briefly covered by Rohan also, where you need to know that what is it that is required. So on a daily basis, the inputs need to come in on what is going to sell at every location across the country, and how is it that you have a very fast reactive mechanism of moving inventory across the network that you have built across the country. That is one bit. The other bit is where due to the as I had mentioned that due to the dynamic nature of the e-commerce industry, we need to also look at the feedback loops to improve the accuracy of these predictions, right? So one other bit that I had very briefly covered earlier was that with every ordering cycle there needs to be so for example there needs to be there's a concept of safety stock based on which ordering is done, right? So with every ordering cycle there needs to be a calculation of safety stock that is done based on the dynamic factors of what is selling at what location. So that is another bit that we look at. Another bit. No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Those are good kind of inputs, right? And I think those are a very interesting question, which said that I think Meghna, that one is for you on food delivery, especially, right? And saying that, especially with frozen food, and when it is delivered at the gate, right? Do you see that there is a challenge in terms of this food which is delivered at the gate with the kind of shelf life that it has, if it needs to be cold, chilled, frozen, whatever? Do you see that there is a big challenge, and is there a solution around it that you've been able to identify?
Ours is shelf stable, so we sort of never ventured into anything, with a cold chain, at all. And for that very reason, actually, I think brands have struggled, right, with sort of whether it's ice cream or juices and so on, which don't have. So I think we've stayed away. We've stayed away from products like that and used packaging technology to ensure that we're good at ambient temperatures. But I think just as we didn't think it would be possible to deliver a packet of pancake to a tier 4 city 5 years ago, just like that, this will get built as well, right? The ecosystem is getting built. Both on the technology piece, for larger companies like Purplle have built it themselves, but for smaller ones like us, that there are enough sort of partners out there who are doing, have built solutions. So whether it's been built or not so far, it's being built right now. Somebody out there is actually building a frozen sort of food, last mile delivery, and I don't know, delivery themselves is doing it. That chain to make that work for sure, because I think that's the magic of what's going on right now. So whether it is inventory planning or Rohan just sent me a message saying we have an entire team focused on demand planning, right? Which I'll certainly speak to, right? We right now we do have a system in place, but and I feel like every few years this gets better and better, right? We itself have more information to play with. Also, you have to remember, companies like ours are growing, not on some quarterly clip, right? We're going on a monthly clip in a jerky fashion. So it's not this, which is what makes yesterday's information kind of useless. So which is why we have to work on this weekly, sometimes midweek, what's going on. You launch a product, your sales guy calls you and says, Madam, 3 din mein sara big gaya. Now, this is to me a champagne problem, right? But it's a problem nevertheless that needs to be solved. So I think while their tools are getting built, there's no substitute for actually just understanding what is going on in the weeds of your business and build don't become a slave to the tools, but figure out, how they can effectively help you. But there's certainly, I think broadly, there's pieces of, just like D2C brands are getting built, the ecosystem around us is getting built, right? So for frozen food, if there isn't a solution, I promise you, if you Google hard enough, you'll find somebody who's who's building it.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Meghana. Abhishek, let me bring you in. I think one of the questions was, and I know that we were talking about costs in the D2C chain, supply chain, right? And they've been slightly higher than the normal B2B chain. I think one of the questions was, I don't know from whom it was, but it's an interesting question. It says, recently in Amazon, Shanbhag made Gautam Adani stated in the future due to automation, logistics supply chain costs would be bare minimum. So they said, need your views on how the automation can contribute in reducing supply chain costs. And I'll get Rohan's point of view there, but Abhishek, very interesting to hear your thoughts since you thought the exact opposite. So I was just very curious.
I'm smiling. I want that day to come. It's been 18 years in supply chain. I look forward to that day. But see, we have to understand Amazon has made a customized product into a standardized one. Amazon, Flipkart. I mean, they have, in logistics, we are shipping air. In any D2C supply chain, you have to understand that you're shipping air. It's volumetric cargo. Whereas the logistics costs are by weight. So they have basically automated the whole supply chain to ensure that the air is minimum. That means the volumetric cargo is less and weight is more, and that reduces the cost. And that can be done through various technologies, through packaging solutions, by being smart about packaging and using softwares to load a truck. But it won't go down to zero. Tomorrow one can say, okay, it's the drone delivery, it's EV chargeable. So one of the simplest way, I'm not talking of D2C, but what we're trying to do is we're looking at a B2B supplies within a city of using an electric vehicle, right? So obviously you have to only pay for the cost of driver and the capex cost of the car or the vehicle, right? But it won't go down to zero. It will reduce. If the frequency is high, if the government is giving benefits, it will reduce. So there are various ways and means to reduce the cost. But going down to zero, well, I mean,
is a different dream. Okay, Rohan, your views on costs and what is the best way to kind of optimize costs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. See, the logistics at the end of it, it's a scale game, right? The more you can process, the better. It's a capital intensive. So you build a big sorter. The bigger the sorter, the more shipments on it, the more the unit economics of that reduce. So we have seen this when if I break up the logistics journey, it's the pickup, there's the mid mile, there's the processing, and then there's the mid mile and say last mile. The first and last mile, it's very labor intensive. Somebody has to drive a truck, get to your facility, pick up a bunch of shipments. Some cases you get a truckload, that's fantastic. Sometimes you have to go and pick up 5 parcels, 2 parcels, 10 parcels. There is only so much. It gets a little bit linked to the cost of a truck and a person and the time required to travel through the city's traffic, do the pickups, everything on time. So the first mile and the last mile, there is only so much efficiency you can gain over time. When it comes to the mid mile and the processing side, that's where the efficiencies are, because the more shipments that you can put on a sorter and the bigger your sorter and the more time that it can run, you are improving the unit economics of that sorter. So we have seen, especially in our Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore sorters, we've installed some high-end automation, and that's really made a difference. When it comes to the mid-mile, which is going from Bombay to Bangalore or Delhi to Bangalore, we've now invested in getting bigger trucks that are more fuel efficient. So we have these Volvo trucks, which are about 43 footers. Loading them up a lot means that the unit economics again improves significantly. And of course, we pass on those to the clients. But those are the two places where you can really drive the cost down. Is it zero? I think that's a long way to go to get almost to zero. But on the other two sides, the first mile, last mile, that's tough because that's time and bound by and human bound.
I think
Thank
Rohan
you.
has
So
set
I think
for a negotiation from Abhishek and me.
I'll wait for your calls.
no, so that's good thoughts. I think also there are two interesting questions, and maybe Shailvee, you can throw some light on it. One was more to say that how does a traditional company, and during COVID many of them switch to D2C, right? So what are the capabilities that they need to rebuild while they are? I mean, and this is a response, Shailvee, from you from a marketplace standpoint, right?
Yes.
What do you think are the capabilities that they really need to build to actually go D2C or use a marketplace? And the second one is, someone who's just starting out, and there are lots of you who started your own businesses, have been a D2C business, and that any of you can pick up is, how does someone go about the supply chain when they don't have any view of the demand? So how do they plan inventory? How do they plan inventory positioning? How do they go about starting that journey?
So for the traditional company going into a D2C space, let me talk about us, right? So we started as a marketplace. I think the journey for us has been easier because we had started as a marketplace, right? Because the scale bit that Rohan was talking about is something that already was a base that was set for us, which gave us that, the underlying infrastructure that helped us build our D2C brands websites on. So basically, having a infra available for warehousing and distribution, and having a storefront which gave us a lot of information on what is it that the customers want. So both of these information and both this infra, capability helped us go into the D2C space more seamlessly.
Meghana, Chirag, this is a question for you. Chirag, maybe you can come in. That how does somebody start, right? Because at some point when you started, they just wanted to know, you have no view of visibility of demand. You don't know, you need to start. How do you start, and how do you plan your supply chain, your inventory placements in your supply chain when you're just starting off?
I think there are good off-the-shelf solutions which are available, right? Even like partners like ShipRocket and Unicommerce are helping in doing something like that, right? I think recommendation to all those people who are starting would be, right, I mean, yes, you can streamline your processes getting these things in places, but I think the first focus should be customer, right? Just get these processes there, right? Use this off-the-shelf solutions. Don't get into too much nitty-gritties of solving this from day one, right? But I think just focus on the customer, get the communication right, get your product right, get your feedback right, and just rely on these solutions. And as you evolve, right, as everyone on this panel has evolved, right, I think we got into the details of solving where we face challenges, right? And I think, and that's the stage we are all in right now. We're picking one solution and figuring out how to get better and better in those things, right? I mean, when we started, right? I mean, we just started from one warehouse. Today, suppose we have 4 warehouses, right? That's a problem we are solving as we're getting more and more customers, and their expectation from us is getting to get deliver faster. But I think focus has to be just get your customers feedback and communication right, and just rely on this off-the-shelf solutions which are there in the market, and they're good enough to get started, right? I mean, let me put it that way.
Rohan, how do you help somebody who's starting off?
Use Delhivery.
I think it's as simple as reaching out, right? What we see is that clients are in different stages of growth and different areas of capability, right? So somebody is got an operations background and starts up their own company, they will have much more understanding and a decided plan of action, whether it's software, whether it's partners, etc. What I think is important is, especially for D2C brands, is to focus on the core and their core capabilities that they have, whether it's on product, whether it's on marketing, whether it's on finance, and then work with a partner to get that built as quickly as possible. There are a lot of plugins, as Chirag mentioned, whether it's on Shopify, whether it's finance, whether it's delivery, whether it's aggregators, whether it is on from a marketing perspective. There are a lot of these tools that exist in the market. It's about getting those integrated into your ecosystem as quickly as possible so that you start your journey and then you learn your way through some of the issues. When it comes to logistics, obviously Delhivery is there to partner with. We provide all the supply chain solutions that exist, from e-commerce to warehousing to LTL to international. So there are partners like that. We can definitely help. It's happy to speak to any clients on the call who are looking to set up and launch.
Lovely. So I think you're almost at the top of the hour, and we just move towards closing. But in closing, Jatin, I just want you to come in and talk about, you have a product which is kind of very customized in what it does for your customers, and you said a large part of it is kind of D2C. So just trying to think and moving your business model forward, what does the future look like, right? How are you working with third-party logistics providers, and what is your real expectation from them in terms of moving to just beyond inventory planning?
All right, thanks, Rob. So I think the future for us is to be closer to the customer by placing our products not in an offline sense, but having stores through our partners like Delhivery in more locations than just being in tier 1 or tier 2 towns. That would help us deliver the products faster and really compete, because a solution like Vedix cannot exist in an offline environment beyond, let's say, a few clinics or few centers, because we are truly offering a customized solution after the customer goes through the questionnaire, right? This could only be done in an online environment, and this could only be built at scale when the supply chain works for it, in the sense that today you take the questionnaire and tomorrow the products which are customized for you are available at your doorstep. So the real sort of, if you say, the wish list is to be as close to the customer as possible by partnering with supply chain partners. And I think the other thing that could really help, I think probably Abhishek will agree with me on this, is that for a personal care sort of a category, the weights are incremental and not necessarily in the slabs that partners define, right? And obviously there's a fixed cost of delivering an order, and then there's an incremental cost which doesn't move till a certain weight point. So what industry needs to move towards is sort of standardization of your weight slabs, so that we can offer more value to the customer at the same cost points, which will actually help us, that to Abhishek's point, reduce the cost of fulfillment without increasing the cost of fulfillment for the delivery partner. Because it's just, let's say, if you're carrying a 500-gram package versus 600-gram package, it's the same thing almost, but the weight just increases. It doubles, the cost doubles, because it falls into a different weight slab, right? So if we can create these custom solutions for at least for the D2C brands, that would really help optimize on the cost and maybe pass on those benefits to the customer, obviously. But also, I just want to bring one sort of make one point, is that inventory optimization when compared to a conventional business is really not that big of a problem. Because imagine serving in a conventional business, you would have to keep inventory in, let's say, 5,000 stores or 10,000 stores. Vis-a-vis today, with 12 to 15 warehouses distributed across India, you could service pretty much every pin code, or at least 95% of the pin code, with next day delivery. Now that's a huge advantage. What that allows us to do as a brand, is offer new products and test them out quickly, fail fast, roll them out without investing too much in inventory. So, obviously we should continue to optimize on inventory, but compared to conventional business, we have a huge advantage when it comes to solution to problems like these. Yeah.
So Abhishek, let me get you there, right? Because I think Jatin, alluded to you as well. So what is the future, and how do you see your expectations changing, from a third-party logistics provider, right? And how does that expectation change for you over the period of time?
See, like D2C setup, and we are in omni-channel, so we have got our own kiosk, our own salons. D2C is a small part of the whole business. We are present in 40,000 outlets. We are across the e-com space. D2C is a smaller part of the whole chain, but but it is the cash guzzler, means that it is a loss making for us. So for us, the logistics cost is a significant part of the whole D2C supply chain. So for me, the expectation is simple. How can I reduce the cost? Because as Jatin rightly said, the first slab is 500 grams. I'm selling a 100-gram tube. Uh, I can customize the packaging to make it a 250-gram weight. Can I can I reduce the slab? Can I have a 750-gram slab? Most of the issues or discrepancies, one of the questions that people have asked pertain to people, transporters charging us 550 grams or 600 grams or 510 grams, because then it goes to the next slab where I paid double. So that's the margin part for the transporters, but it's a loss for me. So then it becomes, pretty, you have to really get involved. So we have an aggregator whom we work with, and they've given us a panel. So, but it's not like you can forget in a sleep over it. You've decided the rates, you put the priority. No, it's a daily hustle, because some of the pin codes that we service across the country, they change dynamically. So I don't know. Suddenly, if some of the network has congestion, they may give it to the transporters who are expensive. So my freight bill is out of control. Plus, I have the weight discrepancies. Plus, I have to pay for the air. The first slab being 500 grams, even though my packet volumetric weight may be 250 grams or 300 grams. So that's the three challenges I have to say, and those three I have to break to make the D2C business really profitable. And then that's where the opportunity explodes. Because imagine in D2C, in any website, I think the team on the call, all the panelists would agree, the number of customers who come to your site and number of customers who actually buy, it's a small fraction. So can there be a way that if I reduce my logistics and packaging cost and warehousing cost, can I offer them a solution that we give them something instead of it just going away? The key to that lies in, can I reduce the logistics cost, right? So it's a win-win if and only if the transporters agree and look at a different way of working rather than going after us and making money on us.
So thank you, Abhishek.
I'm going to have to set up 5 meetings on this.
I know Rohan is smiling.
No,
Rohan,
we can solve this. We can solve this for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
We should connect. I know.
So,
but it's a huge opportunity. I'm telling you, it's a huge.
Correct.
If only we can solve this.
So Rohan, I think you've seen good articulation of what the future looks like and what the future ask is, and I know you've also committed here that you'll be more than happy to work on it. But from your perspective, right? The complexities, the asks, the variabilities that we all discussed and spoke about, right? What do you think as a service provider you're gearing for the future, and what are the things that you kind of building on to this so that you change your solution set beyond what is just largely inventory or planning that or moving that? Is there a space that you're working on to expand just to address some of the challenges we have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that we strongly believe in, and we're seeing this now even from a lot of the D2C brands, is how to think about logistics more from an end-to-end perspective. And what I mean by end-to-end is, a lot of that conversation has been on the e-commerce side of it. Now, in the country, Delhivery is one of the only players, or is the only player that works across all the lanes of, or the full suite of logistics services, from LTL to FTL to warehousing to international to heavy shipments to documents to express parcel or e-commerce. And one of the things that we are seeing and we expect to see as an increasing trend is that companies will start to focus on what they would call their core. Now, it could be operations, it could be manufacturing, it could be marketing, it could be product development, but they'll focus on those cores and they will work to leverage a partner for something like logistics. We outsource our IT, right? We discussed plugging in different IT. Nobody said, I'll build my own IT all the time. So we outsource it. So it's a clear trend we see. We believe that will help win-win. Now, for example, we have warehouses, 18 million square feet of warehouses, about 90 warehouses across the country. we are most likely going to have them more forward deployed than most brands would, because that's the nature of my business. I can consolidate volume and put a warehouse in a location that somebody would not want to do it on their own. We also focus a lot on our tech development, which I think is a very important part, whether it's from an analytics perspective or crunching the information that we've collected over 1.5 billion shipments that we have and giving a better RTO prediction engine. So I think where we see this kind of evolving is a much closer partnership with companies, brands, on looking at logistics in a more holistic sense, not just one sliver of it, but saying, if this is my business and this is what I want to achieve overall, how do we work with one partner, two partners, three partners? Right now, you have 7 partners in LTL, 4 partners in Express, 6 partners in FCs, or 3 partners in FCs. It's a lot to manage and a lot of systems to work together. At some point, it becomes untenable, and that's when you have a lot of competing priorities coming in. And we think that there's a chance to bring it together in one solution where you can still use a master partner, and then
is there a reconciliation issue there, Rohan, that you're saying that multiple partners? Does that cause a lot of reconciliation issues?
It doesn't cause a reconciliation issue, but it's a bandwidth issue. If you have 4 for just Express, and let's say Express is 20% of your business, you have 4 there. This is just to get working with the partner. Forget the fact that there will be a system that you're working with, the Vinculums of the world. Then you have 3 warehouses, which you may have got the same warehouse from one partner or 2 different partners. Then you've got your LTL, which is then going to your distributor. So then you have 4 partners or 5 partners there. So it's just management bandwidth, and then you got competing priorities versus having one view of your entire logistics, whether it's by channel, whether it's by inventory, and then you make your own decisions, but you have one view of it. So it's not necessarily reconciliation, it's more your entire supply chain is under one view. And within that view, you are able to then make decisions. You can put your own rule engine for that.
And that's what you think in the future, more logistics partners will evolve into as a full supply chain partner. Is that your
correct? Correct. And right now, for example, in India, there isn't anybody else who works in all the business lines. So that proposition doesn't come as often also to the table. But we do this. We're doing this with many brands. We're doing it with a lot of large corporates. And I believe that, and this is a very normal process in many countries as well. It's not a new concept. It's more about how do you bring the economies of scale of a partner who has built infrastructure on this to support your business even more.
Just to conclude, some of my key takeaways. I think what we all spoke about. This is the supply chain piece is a very critical piece to have a closed loop feedback to actually continue to support the business model that we have taken up as a core enabler for our business. Of course, there are issues and challenges that we heard, but also I think there are areas to focus on, and there are solutions which are getting built out and solved on a regular basis. I think a lot of focus on looking at inventory lifecycle management, looking at analytics to manage the stock placement, etc. Some tech is getting built out, some tech already there. But I think most importantly, I think this as a channel is a very, very important kind of a channel. And what I heard from everybody is that this is your real translation of your customer and your brand experience into a customer experience. Largely, this is really a channel to elevate your customer experience, which is probably secured only till now, was secured to the luxury space, and now is getting fairly democratized. And therefore, it will see the kind of growth rates that we discussed in the beginning. I think you guys have been a fantastic panel in sharing your thoughts, views on the topic and subject. And I can't thank our participants enough because they've all been with us, although we've been now 20-21 minutes over. Would also like to finally thank ET and hand this back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks, Pallab.
Thanks, Pallab. Thanks, guys. Great to connect. Thanks, ET.